and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else, I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
No spin, no bias, no censorship. I'm Dan Wootton. Tonight, as it emerges the Liverpool bomber remained in the UK despite 7 years of failed bids for asylum, is our immigration system broken? I'll have the latest in my digest shortly, and then my superstar panel, former editor of the Daily Star, Dawn Neeson, Conservative commentator Calvin Robinson, and the author and journalist Rebecca Reid weigh in. And are flaws in that asylum system allowing extremists to stay in our country unchecked? Dr. Rakib Bassen will tackle that in Uncancelled. Our mainstream media may ignore the scourge of Islamist terror endangering our lives, but don't worry, I won't. With the government threatening to take our Christmas away again, would anything stop you celebrating with your family and friends this year? Dr. Bharat Pankania and theatre legend Christopher Biggins go head-to-head on that in The Clash. With Craig Revel-Horwood out of the show after he tested positive with COVID-19, Strictly Come Dancing's head judge Shirley Ballas joins me live with the latest from the hit show. As awkward truths rain down around the Sussexes, is Prince Harry really the right person to lecture us on, wait for it, fake news? Darren Grimes gives his uncompromising take in The Outsider. Is David Beckham a human rights hypocrite for accepting Qatar's millions to promote its controversial World Cup? Olympic hero and record-breaking sprinter Ewan Thomas gives us his rundown in Winning. And is Boris Johnson gambling with the support of his vital red wall voters by scrapping an HS2 extension to Leeds? We'll debate that and more in the Media Buzz. Plus, get a first look at tomorrow's newspaper front pages hot off the press, and we'll reveal today's greatest Britain and Union jackass before the end of the show. This is Dan Wootton Tonight. Let's go. Just one thing, the inability of the government to stop the boats on the Channel is intrinsically linked to their inability to keep us safe from domestic terrorism. More than 22,000 illegals have entered the country this year. Most destroy their passports, throw their phones into the sea and tear up any other paperwork, meaning we have no idea who we are letting in from France. Extraordinary footage revealed by the Mail Online today showed two 50-foot-long inflatable dinghies being loaded with around 40 migrants each. They say they're mainly from Iraq and Syria. And after the Mail Online's reporter witnessed life jackets being openly handed out at a makeshift migrant camp near Dunkirk, this took place. Meanwhile, at a similar moment on a neighbouring beach, a Mail Online photographer witnessed another 50-foot-long black inflatable boat being carried down by a group of around 50 migrants. That's just today. And as I've written in my column for Mail Online tonight, these are professional operations being run by inhumane people smuggling gangs who are humiliating the UK and undermining our legal migration system on a daily basis. I'll debate whether we must tow the boats back with my superstar panel later in the show. Former editor of the Daily Star, Dawn Neeson, Conservative commentator Calvin Robinson, and the journalist and author Rebecca Reid. But first, the news with Polly Middlehurst.
Good evening, I'm Polly Middlehurst and this is your latest GB News. Sir Keir Starmer has said Boris Johnson has been dragged kicking and screaming to reform government standards. The Prime Minister has written to the Speaker of the House calling for an update to the MP's Code of Conduct. It came as the Labour leader demanded action on MPs working as paid political consultants or lobbyists. Ministers will vote on new measures tomorrow. Sir Keir said Labour had forced the Prime Minister to act.
Under no illusion, the Prime Minister's only done this because his back was against the wall, because we, the Labour Party, have put down a binding vote for tomorrow. So this is a significant victory for the Labour Party. And I rather hope that all my press conferences are this successful, that whilst I'm making a demand of the Prime Minister, he concedes, caves in.
The former Yorkshire County cricketer Azim Rafiq has said the racist treatment he received led to having suicidal thoughts. He's now appeared before MPs to discuss allegations of institutional racism at Yorkshire County Cricket Club. An investigation by Yorkshire concluded Mr Rafiq had been the victim of racial harassment and bullying, but that nobody had been disciplined. Mr Rafiq told the Digital Culture, Media and Sports Select Committee that abuse in the club went unchecked.
Look, there's things that are not right and we can really all learn from it, and what's happened to me has happened. It'll never change. But my aim was to try and see if my experience can help others.
2 arrests have been made in West London by the Met's Counter-Terrorism Command. The arrests aren't linked to the taxi explosion in Liverpool, but 2 men, aged 21 and 19, have been detained under the Terrorism Act and remain in police custody. Searches of an address in West London are ongoing, and police say there are no immediate threats to the public. The Scottish Government will consider expanding its coronavirus vaccine passport scheme from December the 6th. Nicola Sturgeon told MSPs that a final decision will be made next Tuesday on whether to expand the scheme to cover pubs, cinemas and theatres. Vaccine passports were introduced at the start of October. They currently apply to nightclubs and other adult entertainment venues. You're right up to date. I'm back in an hour. Now here's Dan.
The shocking case of the Liverpool bomber Imad al-Swalmeen shows our country's asylum system is broken. The 32-year-old terrorist, who came disturbingly close to killing hundreds at the Liverpool Women's Hospital or the Liverpool Cathedral on Sunday, had been in the country for 7 years until his death because he had appealed his failed asylum claim. During his time here, he was arrested for waving a large knife in public in Liverpool. But then he changed his name to Enzo Almini and converted to Christianity in what seems like an obvious bid to trick the authorities. The alarm bells should have been ringing from the moment he claimed he had entered the country from Syria, when in fact officials believed he came from Jordan. By the time he tried to inflict maximum damage to innocent Brits on Sunday, he had set up a bomb factory in rented accommodation, believed to be paid for by his job as a pizza chef and in a cake shop. That was despite the fact he was meant to be living at a hostel for asylum seekers. But as former 7/7 counter-terror detective at Scotland Yard, David Vidiket, said today, there's now a dispute about who exactly Imad al-Swalmeen really was and where he actually came from. This is always a problem with asylum applicants who destroy their documents before arrival. I know one thing, he didn't learn how to make bombs while working in cake shops. Al-Swalmeen remained in the country because he was able to appeal his deportation, a process that can keep you in Britain for years. And he's not the only one, you know. Official Home Office figures revealed today by the Mail Online show there were a record low 8,000 deportations of failed asylum seekers and foreign criminals last year. But that compares to 47,000 who were forced to leave the country in 2013. There are currently 125,000 asylum cases outstanding in Britain, according to UK border figures, with 5,900 awaiting the outcome of lengthy appeals and a further 39,500 waiting to be deported. The government says we should be alert, but not alarmed, after Sunday's failed attack. But I'm sorry, I am alarmed. Alarmed that our legal system allowed Al Swamin to stay in the country and plot a potentially unimaginable attack. I'm alarmed that nearly 1,000 illegal migrants are continuing to enter the country via the channel from France on a daily basis, many of whom could already be operating as part of terrorist cells for all we know. And I am alarmed that the government and the mainstream broadcast media want to look away from this issue because the conversations will just be too difficult. But to respond now, let me bring in my superstar panel. Former editor of the Daily Star, current columnist there, Dawn Neeson, the Conservative commentator Calvin Robinson, and the journalist and author Rebecca Reid. Dawn, there's a lot of reason to be alarmed.
I think that there absolutely is, and I can't disagree with anything you've just said, Dan. I mean, the fact that he was in this country for 7 years, and he's not alone. This system, as you say, is totally broken. We have to sort it out now. You know, look, there are genuine refugees.
Of course.
The women and children in particular in Afghanistan who need our help. But we can't lie to ourselves anymore that the vast majority of people travelling across that 26 miles of water between us and France are not genuine refugees. I'm sorry, but we have to face up to that. They're not. They are mainly fit young men. They destroy all their paperwork. And we don't know who they are, where they're from, what they're here to do. We have to sort this system out now. And, you know, I had this debate the other day with someone and they were saying, oh, yeah, but they're only leaving the safe haven of France to come to Britain because they have family here. No, they don't. If they had family here, they'd be keeping their paperwork, proving they had family here and applying to stay here legally. They're not. Why are they destroying their paperwork? But to have this conversation, you're accused of being racist, Islamophobic. It's not. This is common sense, Dan. I mean, we avoided an awful tragedy this week. I mean, you know, I would not have wanted
Narrowly.
Absolutely.
Very narrowly.
I would not have wanted to explain to either, we don't know what the actual target was, either the women in that hospital or the veterans at the Remembrance Day Parade, that their lives were sacrificed because our asylum system is absolute rubbish.
Indeed. Calvin Robinson, of course, what's happened now is the mainstream media, or a lot of the mainstream media, has clung on to the fact that he had converted to Christianity.
Allegedly.
And is now trying to describe him as some sort of Christian fundamentalist, which I think is intellectually dishonest, don't you?
I mean, I obviously write for The Telegraph quite a lot, but I thought this was irresponsible reporting on their part. They were the first ones to break this, I believe, saying that he was a Christian convert. And we know this. We see this across the board. Apostasy means that you cannot be sent back. If you renounce your faith as a Muslim, you cannot be sent back to your homeland because your life will be at risk. That's the story they tell. They say they're gay. They say they're all kinds of things because they know if you send them back, they will be killed. It's a way of staying in this country. It's called taqiyya, I believe, in Islam. But the problem here is we don't test it. We don't ask for proof. We don't say, OK, you know, receive communion then. You know, have some of the wine if you're no longer Muslim, if you're Christian now. But the fact is we had a criminal, a terrorist, a murderer living in our country for 7 years. We didn't know who he was or where he came from. He committed crimes in this country and we didn't send him back. Why? Why are we allowing this to go on? This is under a Conservative government as well. It's disgusting.
And Rebecca, he wasn't meant to be here. He lost. And it's the appeals process of the asylum system, which I today say is broken, that has meant he has been able to commit this terrorist act.
I think these are two separate conversations. I think our immigration system and our relationship with refugees is one thing, and I think the issues around terror is a separate thing, because there have also been quite a lot of terrorists.
I think they're intrinsically linked.
For me, I'm not sure they are, because there have been a lot of terrorists who are British-born, who have grown up here.
Yes.
So terrorism is a massive, like the radicalisation of young people, and actually not even young people, radicalisation of people is a massive issue.
Absolutely.
But that's
I completely agree, Rebecca.
But
Rebecca, I completely agree.
Generally, people on the internet who are not based in
But Rebecca,
the UK
I
or in
completely
America.
agree that, of course, there can be homegrown terrorists,
But
and we speak a lot about that radicalisation. But let's talk about this case. The bloke only arrived here in 2014. He was unable to prove where he'd come from. He was meant to be deported, but because of the asylum system, which is caught up in bureaucratic red tape, it meant he was allowed to stay. Talk about this case, because it's this case that could have killed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of young mums.
And did kill someone, you know.
Him.
Yeah, no. As in, was he? And also, somebody was seriously injured. Not
The taxi
didn't die.
driver managed to escape.
He's out of hospital.
Very
He's out of
brave.
hospital now,
Which
Which is
thankfully.
incredibly lucky.
Fantastic.
In terms of in terms of this specific case, I don't take issue with people doing questionable things to get a better life in a different country, because if
Illegal things, Rebecca.
I would
Illegal things.
Yeah, well, no, pretending you've converted...
Breaking the law.
Pretending you're a convert isn't illegal.
Well, crossing the channel
it's
illegally is
shady.
illegal.
No, but I'm talking about the full
And
gamut...
destroying your paperwork
I'm
is
talking
illegal
about the
too.
full gamut of things that people do in order to be able to live in different countries. And if I were in a situation where I was unable to feed my children here, or I felt like I was going to be persecuted here, I would lie, absolutely. I would convert to anything that I needed to convert to. I would destroy my paperwork. I would do all of that in a heartbeat if it was protecting my family.
But most of them are in France, Rebecca. I mean, this is the issue here. They are not
But if you're stuck
fleeing
in a
war
refugee
zone.
camp and you can't work and you can't make any progress and you can't get a home...
Apply for
And did
asylum
this
in
guy, he
France.
didn't have a family. He came over as
But
a
that's
single guy, did
years.
he not? They're not protecting their families. They're young men coming over here for a free ride.
Well,
That's
for
what
a
they're
better
doing.
life, and I think it's
Yeah.
I think it's the
There's
height
an
of
appropriate way to do
privilege.
it.
Rebecca, some are.
When you-
Absolutely, some are. But the point is, this bloke
Yeah, him
turned
specifically.
to terrorism.
Yeah, but for me, the
And he
cut-off...
shouldn't
yeah,
have
but
been
the
here.
cut
Does
off
that
with
not make
him,
you angry?
No, the cut-off with him should
Doesn't
have
make
been...
you angry.
The knife, the fact that he was waving a knife around and that wasn't enough to make a significant change, that makes me angry. But people in general, effectively conning their way into other countries doesn't, because I could see myself doing it if I felt I needed to. And I don't think that by being born here, I'm somehow more in... Like, it's a luck thing,
you're
right?
not a
I'm just
terrorist.
fortunate. No, but I'm talking about... I think it's... the majority of people who are doing this are naughty. They're doing something illegal, but they're not terrorists. The vast majority of
But
people
you
who come
only
over
need
here
one
aren't
terrorist.
terrorists.
Calvin, my issue here is you only need one terrorist, and we see how many attacks are rumbled. So, I'm sorry, I'm not prepared to take the chance.
Not at all.
We
Not
cannot
at all.
take the chance.
We need to turn the boats back that are crossing the channel illegally. If the French aren't going to police the waters, we need to do it ourselves. Do what the Australians do, have gunboats in the waters. I would go that far. We need to
Gunboats?
put
Like
a
shoot
strong...
people?
We need to put a strong... I didn't say
No,
shoot
sorry,
people. I said
no,
put
did you
gunboats
say
on it.
gun, as in...
Gunboats, yes.
What happens with it? I don't know what that is. What is a gunboat?
It's a deterrent to say that you are not allowed to illegally cross our water. This is water
then
that
what
we are
happens
So
policing.
you would take it as a war footing.
Because-
You're not saying you would shoot
Absolutely,
the
because
migrants.
these
But
are
then why do you
organised
have guns
crime
if you can't
gangs
shoot?
that are taking people over, they're exploiting people, they're exploiting our country and our laws. And when these people come over here, they could be, we don't know anything about them, we don't know where they're from, and as we've seen this week, they could be terrorists.
But
It's
why
not
would you have a
okay.
boat with guns on it if you weren't going to maybe shoot people?
The
What a
bottom,
deterrent.
the bottom line
But
is
it's not a
we've got-
deterrent if it doesn't
Well, it does,
shoot
no, it
people.
clearly works though, doesn't it? Other countries do it, so it clearly works.
So none of these gunboats have ever shot anyone?
I don't know if they have.
The bottom line is we've got to stop
what's your
them
point?
leaving France. We've given France £54 million to police their borders better.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. It hasn't
No,
worked.
but look, there are two issues that are completely intrinsically linked. But when it comes to Al Swamin, the point is it was the asylum system, not the situation on the channel. Both of these situations need to be resolved.
Yes.
And what angers me is that we get constant tough talk, Calvin, but we're not getting the delivery.
No, so we've blamed the EU for decades now, saying we can't change the laws because we're in the EU, it's their immigration laws, we're no longer in the EU, and we still don't have tougher immigration laws. We still haven't cracked down on this. And as you pointed out at the beginning, we're deporting less people now than we were in 2013, so what's going on there?
The issue I have, sorry to interrupt,
It's all
the
right.
issue I have with the EU is at the moment they are encouraging Poland to build a fence on their border between Belarus, and we know there are migrants massing there to cross into to Europe to destabilise the West. The EU are encouraging Poland to build a fence. They're encouraging armed forces to stand on that border and patrol that border, because to stop these migrants. But when it comes to us, they're
But
saying,
we're not in them anymore, so why would they care about us?
But they do, obviously. They
But why
quite
would
clearly do. That's why Macron's letting them all cross the channel in the first place. But they are saying to us, no, you have to accept more migrants. But
why would they
you
want
can't
to
have them in
help?
Poland.
If I were I genuinely don't really care about Brexit, but if I were the EU, I wouldn't want to. I'd be like, well, sorry, England, sorry, UK, you left, your problem. I wouldn't want
Well,
to.
that's
help.
exactly what Macron's doing.
what's happening.
That's
But why
exactly what
wouldn't you?
Macron's
Why
doing.
wouldn't you? This is all of this stuff is about protecting our own countries, right? So France want what's best for them, which they presumably feel is for your immigrants.
But this
So if
is
they're leaving France are like, yes,
But
get
this
in.
is ironically not good for France, because there are many migrants who have been camped in those hellish camps on the coastline there for years now. This is not good for France, because it is encouraging more
Because they
migrants
go to France so
into
they can get to the
France
UK.
To get to the UK.
But Calvin,
So it's not good for France.
as I have been saying though, for the past 48 hours, I now think there is a political establishment, a media elite conspiracy of silence trying to stop the country have this conversation.
So it's
and
worse than
that's
that.
what's making me sick.
It's worse than silence. These people are complicit. So I want to actually highlight lots of Christian priests or vicars who are encouraging people, encouraging asylum seekers to claim that they are Christian, and they are actively fake baptising these people so they have a better chance of staying in the country. Liberals, bleeding heart liberals like this.
Really? I think that's beautiful, and I think that's-
No,
I think
bleeding,
that's
like,
very,
bleeding
very-
heart liberals like this are the ones that are putting us at risk.
I think that's a very
If this
Christ-like
terrorist
thing to
had
do.
blown up the cathedral, they would have been to blame.
I think that is a very...
It's not a
I think it is. I think it is a very
Breaking the
Christ-like
law-
thing to have done. Because I don't...
And no, there's fake baptisms are the least Christ-like thing you can do.
I disagree. I think, in my experience as a Catholic, I feel...
Then you clearly
many
do
of
not
the...
take the sacrament seriously. You cannot
That's
baptise.
actually a very, very inappropriate thing to say to
it's not
somebody else who is Catholic.
Because you just said
take
you
the
can
sacrament
give someone a
enormously
fake
seriously.
you can give someone a fake baptism to get them illegally into a country.
Yeah, and that's
when
my
baptism is the most
relationship
when they might
sacred
be a
thing.
terrorist, Rebecca.
Yeah, and they also might very well not be. And the majority...
But don't we need to
Absolutely
find out?
ridiculous. You're talking so much
Don't
nonsense.
we need to find out?
Yes, we do. And and this is the thing. And people who have no qualms about blowing you up certainly have no qualms about converting.
These people have no humanity. I mean, I'm sorry. These are the ISIS-inspired sort of monsters that walked in with a very similar bomb, by the way. It just went off properly to the Ariana Grande concert in Manchester, trying to maim and murder 7, 8, 9-year-olds. And I'm sorry, we have to know who they are.
Do you think there are more... this is a genuine question. Do you think instinctively there are more terrorists who are coming here to do harm or genuine asylum seekers who are trying to escape?
Of course, they're a tiny minority.
No,
Rebecca,
I'm
do you not
asking. No, I'm
understand the point?
genuinely asking.
They are a tiny minority.
But Dan,
but
that
do you
was a
not
genuine
understand?
question.
You need one terrorist to kill hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people, so we cannot take the
But
risk.
it's the
I think the
ratio-
vast majority of asylum seekers are very good, very honest people who want to come to the UK and who want to start a better life. But my point is, you cannot take the risk because that tiny minority
so we need a
are
better
the folk
filter.
that are going to kill us.
So I think maybe we're agreeing that you need a much better filter so that the people who are genuine can still come, but the people who aren't can't.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we forget to say that. We get very... either it's you're racist for saying anything, or it's send them all back.
But Rebecca, this Al Swamin, who could have killed hundreds of people at the weekend, we knew he wasn't genuine because he lied about where he came from. Yeah, but we were unable to send him home. Do you not understand my point? He's been here for 7 years.
I have rescinded my I don't believe in borders thing that I once said to you. I do totally agree that some system is good. Just like we were talking about earlier, when you marry somebody, if I married an Australian and I wanted to live in Australia, I'd have to prove we were genuinely married. Now, obviously, it's an easier system because you just look at Facebook.
But if we disprove it, which we did in the case of this bloke very quickly.
Bye-bye. Absolutely.
But he's here 7 years later.
7
OK,
years.
good.
But
We're
no
all in
one-
agreement.
but no
The
one
asylum
thinks that-
system is broken. We're all in
No one
agreement.
is saying let's keep
Rebecca
more
Reid,
terrorists.
Calvin Robinson, Dawn Neeson, thank you so much, my superstar panel. They're here all night. It's going to be a fiery one, I feel. Still to come, the Qataris World Cup preparations have been shrouded in controversy. So is UNICEF Ambassador David Beckham a human rights hypocrite for taking their millions to promote it? I'll debate that with Olympic hero Ewan Thomas. But up next in The Clash, as Boris Johnson threatens another Christmas lockdown, would anything stop you celebrating with your family and friends this year? Dr. Bharat Pankania goes head-to-head with the theatre and panto legend, Christopher Biggins. And let us know what you think. Dan at gbnews.uk is my email, or you can vote in our poll at GBNews on Twitter. Back with that in 2.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of 2 wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else. I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Time now for The Clash. I'm sure we all remember Boris Johnson's empty promises to save the festive season this time last year before he effectively cancelled Christmas by plunging 18 million people into a lockdown. Well, the PM is making no such promises this year. His press conference yesterday struck a far less optimistic note as he threatened another Christmas lockdown if over 40s didn't get the booster jab. He warned of a blizzard of cases from the east that could leave him with no choice but to reimpose restrictions. But could millions of us, including myself, really stomach another Christmas day alone or without our loved ones? Would there be anything at all that could stop you celebrating Christmas with your family and friends this year? Well, you're now able to vote on that question on Twitter at GBNews. I'll bring you the results and some of your feedback from Dan at gbnews.uk in just a moment. But first, let's go head-to-head on this with the theatre and panto legend Christopher Biggins and Dr. Bharat Pankania. Good evening to you both. Christopher Biggins, we can't have another Christmas affected. I mean, you'll go out of business to start with, won't you?
Well, I mean, last year was terrifying because, you know, we were all the pantomime seasons in the last minute were cancelled. And quite rightly, because we were in a situation where there was a pandemic happening. But we had nothing. And not only actors, but theatre producers, directors, front of house, stagehands. So many people went out of work, it wasn't true. We cannot afford to do that again. America, on Broadway, the government there gave trillions of dollars to help them. We've been given nothing from the government. Theatre has been left out completely. And listen, I was going to go to Dartford last year to do Jack and the Beanstalk. I'm going there again this year. And God willing, I'll be there. But, you know, you can't. I don't know what's going to happen. But, of course, at the end of the day, if there is going to be another pandemic and people are going to die and there's going to be nowhere to care for them, what are we going to do?
Well, Biggins, I have to be honest with you. Last year, I spent Christmas Day completely on my own because I was working, editing the Sun newspaper, where I was employed before GB News. And I won't do that again. I'm not doing that again. I will make my own decisions this year, regardless of the regulations. And I get the sense, because I don't know about you, but I get the sense that folk are with me now. They want the government to butt out because we're an 80% vaccinated country.
Absolutely. I mean, I've had my booster, I've had my flu jab, I've had everything you could possibly want and get from the National Health. It's fantastic. But, you know, it's a very difficult situation. I mean, of course, I cannot let my fellow actors and people in the theatre go with another year with no money. I mean, it's bad enough as it is. It's just terrifying.
Dr. Bharat Pankania, why do you think it's acceptable for the population to be continually threatened with the spectre of further lockdowns, further restrictions on our lives, and specifically with Christmas? I feel almost like it's some form of emotional torture, Dr. Pankania, because they're threatening to take our Christmas away again.
Yeah, I agree with you, Dan. You know, you didn't expect to hear that from me, did you? But I agree with you, right? And let me add something else, right? I also agree with Christopher that his trade is messed up and he goes out of pocket and they go bust. And similarly, Christmas is cancelled. Christmas is cancelled at the 11th hour. And who do I blame? Fair and square, the politicians. Why do I want to blame them? Because they mess it up. Now, why do I say that they mess it up? The answers are as follows. When you see a rising tide of issues, if you act early, fast, extensively, and put the brakes on and control it, and you control it well before it becomes critical at the 11th hour, and then you cancel
But
Christmas,
Dr. Pankani,
who do
I've
you
got
want
to
to
come
blame?
in there.
You want to blame
Dr.
the person who
Pankani,
let
I've
that
got
happen.
to come in there, though. I've got to come in there because what you're saying, and you know I have huge respect for you, we have spoken since the very beginning of this pandemic. But what you're saying has been proven to be untrue. Because if you look at all of the countries around the world that you have put on a pedestal for so long, the likes of Singapore, the likes of Australia, the likes of New Zealand, that all locked down hard and early. They are still in lockdown now, Dr. Pankania. They
Let
are
me
having
answer,
restrictions on their Christmas. So I think it's just completely wrong to say, oh, you take away all of our freedoms early and then we don't have to worry. That's not true.
No, listen, you've got to let me answer because it is important for our viewers.
Yes,
and
go
listeners,
ahead. Go ahead.
Right? And from a infection control point of view, we want to save lives. And the more cases you have, the more cases end up in hospital. Of those cases who end up in hospital, unfortunately, a few will die. We want to not do that. Therefore, what do? You should do is reduce the number of cases. And if you look at number of people dead, New Zealand, Australia, they're not comparable countries. On the other hand, look at Germany, comparable country. They have fewer deaths considering they've got a bigger population compared to the UK. So we haven't done well. What we need to do is very, very simple. Early, prompt, measured actions, measured. I'm going to answer that measured bit in a minute. It saves lives. What are these measured things? Let's take Prime Minister Johnson today. He talks about the wave coming from the east. He's absolutely wrong. Because the wave is already here in the United Kingdom. The elephant in the Mr. Johnson doesn't want to address is as follows. None of his CMOs or his scientific officers are also addressing it, which is this. It is a multi-layered operation to control cases. It is not only boosters. So you have your boosters, you have your seasonal influenza, you need to mitigate in schools, you need to immunize in schools. It's not a big deal to wear your masks in a crowded place where transmission occurs. So when you do all those things, you keep cases down and Christmas is not cancelled.
OK, well, look, I'll come back to those points in a moment, but I want to bring Biggins back in. Biggins, don't you think it's about personal responsibility now? Because you talk about your case, you've had the 3 jabs, and that means that there's a 93% chance now, Biggins, that if you were to contract COVID, because you can still transmit it even if you have been vaccinated, but there's a 93% chance that you would avoid any form of serious illness. And it's virtually guaranteed that you would avoid death now because you're triple jabbed. So surely that's your risk to take if you want to get out back into the world.
Absolutely. And I wondered whether yesterday the Prime Minister's comment on I may have to cancel Christmas was to make all the people who haven't had the injections go and have them.
Yeah.
Because I think it could be almost a blackmailing situation he's trying to put us in. Because, of course, I don't understand why people don't have the injection. And they're there, they're ready, there are people waiting for them. You're going to say something, Doctor?
No, I was...
Were you going to say something, Doctor?
That this is serious shroud waving because he doesn't want to address the other things as well. And he would do well to address other things as well as talk about the boosters. So I agree with you.
Dr. Pankania, if you're talking about children, for example, the government has tried, but largely the population of this country has decided they do not want to take the risk of jabbing their children because they're at no risk of dying from COVID. Only something like 20% of youngsters in this country. Well, look at the facts. Look at the facts, Dr. Pankania. Around 20% of eligible young people have been jabbed. Because why take the risk of jabbing a child when there's absolutely no risk that they're going to die of COVID?
Let me explain this to you, Dan. It is multifocal, okay? You get infected, You become a case, some of you will die. Even one death that could have been saved is important thing to do. Furthermore, children also suffer from long COVID. Furthermore, children get infected.
The jury's out
and
on that.
they
The jury's
can-
out on the long
they
COVID,
can
by the
tra-
way. The jury
They
is out.
can transmit infections to older age group and then create
Yes,
more
but
illness
that's someone
in the
like
older age group.
Biggins, though.
So there
Biggins,
are.
that's someone like
hold
you
on, Dan. Don't
who's
interrupt because you're
vaccinated.
spoiling my flow. Hold on.
I know, but this
So
is a
it
debate.
is-
We've got to have a conversation, Doctor.
Okay. So look, Dan, I am saying, in short, it is a multi-layered operation. To just harp on about take your boosters or else is not being genuine enough.
Biggins, you're obviously going to be surrounded by lots of people over the Christmas season.
Children.
Do you feel what? Yeah, children too, and they will largely be unvaccinated. We know that. Now that you're vaccinated, I imagine you feel in a far better position than you did this time last year.
I do, but I am worried about 1,500 or 1,000 people breathing on me. That's the other thing that is a slightly worrying thing. I mean, because, you know, we're going to be very vulnerable, those 10 or 15 actors on stage, because we have nothing between us and them. And, you know, I've been to the theatre a lot in the West End recently to see reopening of shows. And you bet your life, very few people wear masks.
Yeah,
they don't wear them.
No.
And I've been on many, many trains up and down the country for work recently. Nobody wears the mask. I mean, I think this, you know,
that's a beautiful thing. Don't you think that's a beautiful thing? Because it's saying we are claiming back our freedom. We're claiming back
You're wrong,
our
Dan,
bodies,
and you
I
know
don't
it.
want to cover myself up with a mask. We're
You're wrong,
vaccinated.
and you know it today, Dan. You know you're wrong.
No, I don't know.
One day,
I know I'm right.
One day we're going to meet in person, and we're going to have this discussion. I'm telling you, you're wrong, and you're wrong, and you know you're wrong.
Look, why don't the two of you come to Dartford and see my pantomime? Then we can have a drink afterwards.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea. But Biggins, you might not be happy because I'll be one of those people in the audience without a mask because, you know, I was prepared to do a lot of this stuff last year, Biggins. Look, I'll tell you why. Because I was prepared to do a lot of this stuff last year when we were an unvaccinated population and I wanted to get back to normal. So maybe some of the mitigation was worth it. I genuinely think now, looking at the statistics, people are able to make their own decision based on their own personal risk. They're able to choose if they want to be vaccinated or not, and then they're able to choose about how they re-enter society. And personally, I think we have to reclaim normality because, Biggins, I worry that it's slipping away from us.
I agree with you totally because we have to get back to reality. Otherwise, this will go on forever and ever and ever.
Yeah.
And we'll be in this situation where we're aliens to each other. I mean, it'll be appalling.
Yeah, and Dr. Pankani, you must accept, I mean, I read a statistic today, right, that apparently there's a 1 in 250 chance that at some point in your life you're going to be involved in a serious motor vehicle accident which could put your life at risk. We don't stop driving, Dr. Pankania. Do you understand my point?
Dan, I don't disagree with you. All I'm talking about is responsibilities, right? No, I'm not here to restrict people. And I abhor what's going on in Austria. I personally think the Austrians have got it wrong. They should have taken their population with them rather than lock them up. You know, I'm here to actually say what is the best way forward.
OK, well, that's a beautiful note of agreement. That's a beautiful note of agreement. So let's end on that positive note of agreement. I love it. And we'll see you at Panto, Christopher Biggins. They better not shut down Panto again this year, or let me tell you, I will be furious.
Please.
So who do you agree with? UK Rooster says, I honestly doubt he will start another lockdown. It would be the last thing the government would want. Lorraine on Twitter says, didn't stop me last year. Said, I've got no hope this year. Good on you, Lorraine. And Cornish Girl says, no, but then all my family and friends are fully jabbed. If they hadn't have been, they wouldn't be invited. Oh, my goodness. I don't like that, Cornish Girl. I just think we've got to worry about ourselves. If you've had your vaccine, you're protected, you're cool. Your verdict is in now. Just 7% of you say that a lockdown would stop you celebrating Christmas with your family and friends, while 93% of you, good on you, say nothing will stop you celebrating this year. I'm with you all. Coming up, Strictly Come Dancing's head judge Shirley Ballas joins me for the latest behind-the-scenes action from the hit show. How will they cope, though, without Craig Revel Horwood, who has been ruled out of the show because of a breakthrough COVID infection, proving, by the way, that even if you're jabbed, you can still catch this darn thing. But first, can David Beckham justify being a UNICEF ambassador while banking millions from Qatar to promote their controversial World Cup? Ewan Thomas debates me on that in Winning straight after the break.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else, I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Strictly Come Dancing head judge Shirley Ballas and the outsider Darren Grimes on the way. But now it's time for Winning with the Olympic hero and record-breaking sprinter Ewan Thomas. Now, David Beckham is facing a huge backlash after it was reported he signed a deal worth £150 million to become the face of the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. The former England football captain will bank the millions to act as an ambassador for the country and promote tourism to the desert state. Ever since Qatar were controversially awarded the World Cup in 2010, their dismal human rights record has been under the spotlight, and a recent Amnesty International report claimed the treatment of migrant workers, several of whom have died building the multi-million-pound stadia in blistering heat, has again deteriorated. Beckham's camp has declined to comment on that report, and Qatar reject Amnesty's claims. But the nation's rap sheet doesn't end at allegations of enslaved migrant workers. How can Beckham take money from a country where homosexuality is punished with a 3-year jail sentence and seriously claim to support Pride? How can he claim to have feminism in his DNA and support the women's game when he's in bed with a regime that forces women to seek male approval to simply marry, study or travel? And how can he continue to preach humanitarian causes to us as a UNICEF ambassador off the back of this blatant greed? Beckham's spokesman says he wants to use football as a force for good in the region. But Ewan Thomas, surely you don't disagree. David Beckham is just a human rights hypocrite.
Well, listen, 150. What would you do, Dan, if you were offered 150 million? I mean, if David Beckham is there to promote the sport that he loves at the highest level, which is, of course, the World Cup, then you've got to say fair play to him for doing what he loves doing.
No,
it's not.
What, even though they don't support women, gay people are banned. They don't. No. Ewan, at some point, you've got to have morals.
I'm not disagreeing with Qatar hosting the World Cup. What I'm saying is we need to look perhaps back to FIFA and other governing bodies. It's not necessarily David Beckham's fault, is it, that the World Cup is going there? I mean, he's being paid handsomely.
He's legitimising it,
because he's the biggest global sporting star there is in football.
Yeah, but he's legitimising it. Because here's the thing, Ewan, he's not being paid by FIFA, he's being paid by the Qatari government. And the thing is, actually, do you know what? If he just did what you said and he held his hands up and he said, I'm a greedy rich bloke and I want another £150 million and I don't care where it comes from. But that's not what he does, Ewan. He virtue signals. He tells us he supports pride. He tells us he's a feminist. Rubbish.
Well, maybe this will damage his reputation and his image and brand Beckham. I don't know, because you are right. There's lots of issues with that country and he needs to address that. And I'm sure the people around him will be advising him whether he should reverse and make a U-turn on this decision or whether he's going to continue to be the face of the World Cup. I mean, that's such a prestigious honour to be the face of a World Cup. As I said, he didn't choose the fact that the World Cup was allocated to Qatar. I mean, that was FIFA and other governments and so forth. So, you know, which way is he looking at it? I don't know.
He's not the face of the World Cup, though. He's the face of Qatar.
Yeah, I believe it's going to be over 10 years. You're right. So it's 150 million. So it's a lot. And, you know, I think he's personal friends with the sheikh out there. I don't know. But this may be reversed, Dan. You know, brand Beckham is huge and he has to make sure he does the right thing and for the right reason. So I wouldn't be surprised, perhaps, if he re-looked at this decision.
Well, UNICEF isn't happy, Ewan. They don't like it, according to reports.
Yeah, and of course he's been with them, I think, for about 15 years now, and that is a huge, prestigious role for him that he does do there. So perhaps he's going to have pressure put on him from all different corners, and we may see a U-turn, as the paper is stating, as you're saying as well. You think he should do that. It's tricky, though, isn't it, Dan? Because I think, obviously, he is Mr. Football, and if you, as you say, he's there to promote Qatar, then it's the wrong decision. If he's there to promote the World Cup, and to be the face of that World Cup and to attract people to go to Qatar, then you can see why he's doing it.
But that is what he is taking it for, and he knows that because it's the Qatari government paying him. Look, I just think you're someone who's already got hundreds of millions in the bank. Is it really worth your credibility to sign up to a regime like Qatar? Personally, I don't think they should have hosted the World Cup. But if people want to go and people want to watch, of course, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I think for David Beckham to take the tainted money when he loves to preach to us, do you see the point that I'm making? To me, it's not about his decision. It's about his moral hypocrisy. He's a virtue signaller.
There is hypocrisy everywhere, though, isn't it, Dan? A lot of people argue the Beijing Olympics were a fantastic game.
Not from me.
You know, they shouldn't have been there. You know, COP26, everyone trying to sort the climate and sort our planet out, and then they're jumping in their private jets. So I'm not making an excuse for David Beckham, but what I'm saying is wherever we look, we can find hypocrisy. So it's everywhere. It's everywhere.
Yeah, I know. It is. Doesn't make it acceptable to me, though, Ewan, and I'm going to call him out for it. And personally, I think Beckham should just be honest and just say, yeah, I'm doing it for the money. I want the 150 mil. And then maybe I'd have a degree of respect. But no longer will I take seriously any preaching about human rights, about pride, about being a feminist from David Beckham. That's all over for me, Ewan. Do you think that's fair?
No, definitely. You've got your own beliefs and your own rights, Dan, and I understand why you're upset by this. I do, because as you said, brand Beckham, and he does try and trailblaze and help a lot of different situations and issues. So
no, he doesn't. No, he doesn't, Ewan. I'm going to have to disagree with you there. He does everything because it's all about PR and it's all about the moolah. It's all about the money. And all I'm saying is that I want the world to understand that. It's something I've known for years and years and years and years. And actually, if you read all of those emails that were leaked from Beckham, he wanted non-governmental organisations to pay private jets to take him around the world. Look, the bloke's about the money. He is about the money. And in some ways, I'm glad that's been exposed, actually.
It'll be interesting if he does take the money and, as you said, keep stum, or whether he does do a U-turn. Yeah. And I'm sure his advisors will be listening to people like yourself, Dan.
Yeah.
And, you know,
no, they don't listen to me. They don't listen to me. They block me out.
Damages brand.
They blocked me out. Mr. Beckham, not my biggest fan, it's fair to say. But that's partly because I'll hold his feet to the fire. He's not going to walk away from this 150 mil. Absolutely not. He'll take the money, and I think it taints him. But Ewan Thomas, I've absolutely loved the debate. We'll talk again very soon. Ewan, thank you so much. Coming up, with Craig Revel-Horwood out of the show after he tested positive with COVID, Strictly Come Dancing's head judge Shirley Ballas joins me live with all the latest from the hit show. Also, after Meghan's courtroom apology exposed the Sussexes' troubled relationship with the truth, why the hell is Prince Harry really lecturing us on fake news? Couldn't make that one up. The uncompromising Darren Grimes is the outsider next.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Good evening. Skies will start to clear overnight, which will allow a brighter day for many of us tomorrow with a bit of sunshine. There will be a slightly fresher feel, though, thanks to a cold front introducing cooler conditions, but not especially cold, just fresher than it has been. This weather front is also bringing some outbreaks of rain, particularly to Scotland through this evening, but as it sinks southwards, it really is weakening. So really just a band of cloud with some light rain and drizzle across northern England and Wales. Following on, there will be lots of showers overnight for Northern Ireland and Western Scotland, some snow likely over the tops of the hills and staying very gusty here as well. As skies clear further south, temperatures will drop well down into single figures, but although it'll be a fresher start to Wednesday, it should be a brighter start as well. Certainly across the Midlands, East Anglia, much of southern England, South Wales, sunny spells for most of the day. Cloudy skies further north, a few showers over northwest England, but they fizzle out, as should the showers across Northern Ireland. We'll keep some going across western Scotland for most of the day, and still pretty gusty here also. As I said, a slightly cooler feel, temperatures not as high. There will be a brisk breeze blowing, but those numbers are still around or a touch above average for this time of year. Through Wednesday evening, we'll see patchy rain trickling into Northern Ireland and becoming more extensive across Scotland during Wednesday night and into Thursday. A little bit of that getting into northwest England, but again, much of the south stays dry. And then we're back to mostly cloudy conditions on Thursday, with rain persistent over northern and western Scotland, a bit of drizzle for southern Scotland, the hills of northwest England perhaps, but for many it's a dry but grey day. Again, it will be fairly breezy, particularly across the northern half of the UK. But look at the temperatures back up into the teens, 14, 15 degrees is possible across northeast Scotland. Staying fairly cloudy, but most places dry once more on Friday. Things turn colder through the weekend.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else, I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Darren Grimes is tonight's outsider. Now, Meghan's mortifying apology for misleading the court in the Sussex's privacy case against the Mail on Sunday over its publication of a letter to her brilliant father, Thomas Markle, confirmed what we all already knew. You can't believe a word that comes out of their mouths. So it might surprise you to find out that Prince Harry, sorry, this makes me laugh, is now a commissioner on disinformation with the Aspen Institute in Washington, D.C., and has even helped to release a wide-ranging report on how to fight so-called fake news. Darren Grimes, you've got to help me here. I guess irony and hypocrisy well and truly alive in Montecito, you know, where the Duke and Duchess of Woke now call home.
Absolutely. I mean, I've been on the Archewell website, Dan, pouring through this stuff, and it is just astonishing. And I think I've concluded that this whole moral panic about so-called fake news is driven exclusively by vested interests, exactly like Meghan and Harry. Because guess what, Dan? They don't like the fact that the press keep publishing stories about them that they'd rather not have out there, right? Tarnishing their perfectly manicured new lives in which they've ditched Queen and country for whackery and wokery, and the public service of charity galas in rainy old Blighty for podcasts, Netflix, and all of the other money-making trinkets in California. I mean, it's people like you, Dan, as a journalist, that they want to silence in the name of shutting down so-called fake news. It's just a naked attempt, to me, at censorship, this report, in the name of disinformation, with Prince Harry as the commissioner for disinformation for this left-wing think tank. And you have got to laugh. You really have got to laugh. I mean, Dan, the only person I can imagine more ill-suited for the role of commissioner of disinformation would be Princess Pinocchio herself.
Who do you mean?
It is incredible.
No, I think you're right. And actually, while I completely agree, the whole thing is laughable, the worry is, Darren, you've got the woke Hollywood elite who actually seem to take these two seriously for some unfathomable reason. And that means that this could spread through the media. And it really concerned me, the fact that they say in this report that so-called super spreaders of mis and disinformation should be held to account with clear, transparent and consistently applied policies that enable quicker, more decisive actions and penalties. So what they're actually talking about is shutting down someone like me, because they would call a lot of the things that I've written about them, or they have called it disinformation. Actually, Darren, as the months and the years have gone on, it's all proven to be completely true. And who decides what's disinformation? This is the issue. And if it's Prince Harry deciding, what he's going to do is shut down his critics.
Oh, well, absolutely, exactly. That's what it is. It's a vested interest. And if Prince Harry is the arbiter of truth, then God help us all. Because, I mean, if any of your viewers tonight do actually think fake news is the scourge of the century, and that simply something must be done about it, Dan, the fact of the matter is this left-wing think tank from their Washington, D.C. bubble clearly aren't the ones to solve it, given that they've seen fit to bring on Prince Harry in on this. Shows how far they are from reality. I mean, the Prince would know all about this so-called disinformation. As you've said earlier, and as you've covered on this show, it was only the other day you were setting out how Meghan Markle had to apologise for so-called forgotten claims made in court. And of course, before that, Dan, there was something like 17 claims made in that infamous Oprah interview, which wasn't just debunked, it was hollowed out of any substance whatsoever. You could go through a few of them, right? We were told that the real wedding took place earlier than the one we all watched, supported and paid for. But the wedding certificate proved that not to be true. You had the Archbishop of Canterbury feeling obliged to confirm that, as is the law, it would be a really serious criminal offence in signing a false declaration. So it didn't happen. We were told that the royal family refused Archie's birthright to be a prince after concerns around how dark his skin colour might be and all of the rest of it, when actually royal protocol says Archie can only receive a title when Prince Charles becomes king, and so on and so forth. I mean, the real one that stood out to me was when Meghan said that she'd never looked Harry up online. I mean, I've got a bridge to sell you if you believe that one, Dan. I really, really do. This was a Tinseltown actress, desperate to make it in the acting world. The idea she didn't know who Prince Harry was when she's obsessed with celebrity culture and all the rest of it. Utterly preposterous to me. So, if you want to tackle disinformation, Prince Harry, look no further than your own housemate. That's all I can say.
Agree. I think let's crown them, Darren. Let's crown them. Prince Harry and Meghan, you are now officially the king and queen of disinformation. Darren Grimes, thank you very much. We'll speak again next week. It's 10 o'clock and still to come in uncancelled Dr. Rakib Hassan on the flaws in our asylum system that might be making it easier for terrorists to get a foothold in our society. Plus, Strictly Come Dancing's head judge Shirley Ballas joins me live with the latest from the hit show as Craig Revel-Horwood is the latest star of the show to be ruled out with COVID. And as 9 Insulate Britain protests prepare for potential prison sentences tomorrow, should we feel any sympathy for them? Personally, I think they should all be locked up, but I'll debate that with my superstar panel and get tomorrow's front pages hot off the press in the Media Buzz. But first, the news at 10 with Polly Middlehurst.
Dan, thank you. Here are your latest GB News headlines. Sir Keir Starmer has said Boris Johnson has been dragged, kicking and screaming to reform government standards. The Prime Minister has written to the Speaker of the House calling for an update to the MP's Code of Conduct. It came as the Labour leader demanded action on MPs working as paid political consultants or lobbyists. Sir Keir said Labour had forced the Prime Minister to act. Ministers will now vote on new measures tomorrow.
Under no illusion, the Prime Minister's only done this because his back was against the wall, because we, the Labour Party, have put down a binding vote for tomorrow. So this is a significant victory for the Labour Party. And I rather hope that all my press conferences are this successful, that whilst I'm making a demand of the Prime Minister, he concedes, caves in.
The former Yorkshire County cricketer Azim Rafiq has said the racist treatment he received led to suicidal thoughts. He's appeared before MPs to discuss allegations of institutional racism at Yorkshire County Cricket Club. An investigation by the club concluded Mr Rafiq had been a victim of racial harassment and bullying, but that nobody had been disciplined. Mr Rafiq told the Digital Culture, Media and Sport Select Committee that abuse was commonplace.
We went past a couple of men with beard and it was like, oh, is that your dad? If we go past a corner shop, or does your uncle own this? Everyone saw it. But because the institution and the environment, it becomes such a norm in there that I don't think anyone thought there was anything wrong with it. And that's probably why some people don't even remember it.
2 arrests have been made in West London by the Met's Counter-Terrorism Command. The arrests aren't linked to the taxi explosion in Liverpool on Sunday. 2 men aged 21 and 19 have been detained under the Terrorism Act, and an address has also been searched in West London. Police say there was no immediate threat to the public. Health officials have expressed alarm at obesity levels among children being at an all-time high. Data
We went
from
past
NHS...
a couple of men with beard and it was like...
Our apologies. Data from NHS Digital shows almost 1 in 7 start primary school as obese. That's a rise of almost 50% in just 1 year. And more than a quarter are obese by the time they finish primary school. NHS leaders warn that being overweight can impact future life chances. And Wales have secured a seeded World Cup playoff spot with a 1-1 draw against Belgium. The home side went 1 goal down after a 20-minute yard shot from Kevin De Bruyne on the 12th minute. However, Kiefer Moore equalised just 20 minutes later. The draw was enough to seal a place in March's playoff semi-finals. Well done to them. You're up to date. I'm back in an hour.
Welcome back. Tomorrow's News Tonight now in our Media Buzz. And let's kick off with the very first look at the front pages, hot off the press. Only have the Metro in at this point. Poison at the heart of cricket. says their front page. It leads with the story of former Yorkshire bowler Azeem Rafik, who today told a committee of MPs that club officials turned a blind eye to racist abuse towards him, preventing him from reaching the top of his game. Also on that front page, Christine McGuinness reveals her torment at seeing pictures of her husband Paddy with All Saints singer Nicole Appleton. My superstar panel back with me now, the former editor of the Daily Star, Dawn Neeson, the Conservative commentator Calvin Robinson, and the author and journalist Rebecca Reid. Now, 9 of the eco-terrorists from Insulate Britain have been in court today and are due to be sentenced tomorrow. And guess what? One of them, Oliver Rock, was quite nervous about the prospect of going to jail, despite the fact that they've all been brazenly breaking the law for weeks. Have a listen.
Yeah, like I feel terrified, like I'm this morning, and I feel like crying. Like I just got all these emotions coming out of me. We've been told that quite probably we'll get custodial sentences, so there's a high likelihood that by this evening I'll be in a prison cell somewhere.
Oh, diddums. You shouldn't have broken an injunction, kept blocking roads and put people's lives at risk then, right? Around 161 activists have now been involved and there have been at least 860 arrests. 9 of them summoned for contempt of court and face up to 2 years in prison, unlimited fines and seizure of assets if found guilty. So, Dawn, should we feel any sympathy for the green gangsters?
Yeah, I'm so sorry. No, of course we shouldn't. I mean, lock them up and throw away the key, to be honest with you. I mean, never have a group of people done so much to harm the cause that they claim to be fighting for. I wouldn't mind if they knew what they were talking about. They haven't got a clue.
Calvin, my worry is that we're going to get soft woke justice here.
Do you think?
That's my concern. Because it happened with Extinction Rebellion, remember? None of them got locked away.
But that can't be the case this time, because they're saying if you don't look us up, we're going to go straight back out there and put people's lives at risk again. It's almost giving them a mandate if we don't lock them up, so we have to lock them up at this point, don't we?
Rebecca Reid, surely you don't feel sympathy for this group of terrorists?
I mean, you're going to be so happy. Because, yeah, I do a little bit.
Why?
Because there are things, not this.
She sells glue.
I don't sell glue. Or sniff glue. I don't really care that much about insulation. It's not my jam. But there are things that I care about that much. And there are some things that if they were happening in the UK, I would consider gluing myself to. And we probably all have a cause, right, that we care about that much, that we would glue ourselves places if we felt like that was under attack.
There's nothing I care about enough, Rebecca, to put another human being's life on the line. And that's what they have done day after day after day. It is so lucky that no one was killed. We know it's caused car accidents. The police are investigating. We know a woman's stroke was made incredibly, so much worse. Exacerbated as a result.
I agree. But my stance was, if you look at the suffrage movement to get women's votes, they did some pretty questionable stuff.
It's a complete
they bombed
false
things.
comparison. No, I have to interrupt you.
They believe.
No, I have to interrupt you. And I'll tell you why. And it's so annoying that I have to keep making this point. Do you not understand? The suffragettes didn't have the right to vote. They were unable to take part in the democratic system in this country.
But
this group of terrorists have the right to partake in our democracy. It's a complete false comparison to the suffragettes.
I don't feel this way, but they believe that this is a genuine threat that's going to end our civilization and that everybody else is ignoring it and that this is the only way to get attention.
Oh, yeah, we were ignoring it, aren't we, Dawn?
We are ignoring global warming a bit.
We've literally just had COP26. We've just had an international meeting about this very cause.
Generally speaking, the outcome was successful,
I know, but it's hardly ignoring the issue, is it?
But we're not. Come on, we're doing so much, Dawn, especially here in the UK.
Well, we are, and the thing is with Insulate Britain, if they really cared that much about their cause, they would insulate their own homes. I mean, that's almost becoming a cliche now that none of them do.
Yeah, totally.
And they would have a clue what they were talking about.
And they have diesel vehicles and they travel all around the world themselves. I mean, look, one thing we've learned over this Flop 26 period is that you speak to a greenie, biggest hypocrite on the planet. It's the actual environmentalists like me who are sensible about how we're going to achieve climate change.
Are you an
that aren't hypocritical. Absolutely, and I have been my whole life.
No, I'm just interested. I didn't know that about you. How? And I'm genuine. I'm not attacking. I'm asking. What makes a person a sensible environmentalist?
Because I absolutely believe that we need to look after the planet. But I also believe that we can do so without railing back our economy to pre-Victorian times.
How would we do that?
And it's interesting. You'll actually like to hear this, Rebecca, because actually it was my experience growing up in New Zealand when I was a young environmentalist, being flooded with doomsday messages that the end of the world was nigh for people in New Zealand because of the ozone hole. That made me absolutely terrified. That makes me strongly realise that the sick people who try and terrify our young people today take completely the wrong approach. And by the way, I include our Prime Minister in that. You know, you don't tell a population of terrified youngsters that we're 1 minute to midnight, because we're not, because we're using technology and developments to tackle climate change. So that's why I'm an environmentalist. I'm glad I got that chance.
I like you, an environmentalist, Dan, and I think most people in this country are. But what these people do is they make it a cult, they make it extreme, and they put people off.
Totally. Now, look, Northern newspapers formed a really rare but quite effective, actually, front-page alliance today to condemn the government for speculation that it's planning to scrap the extension of HS2 from Birmingham to Leeds. So have a look at this. 6 papers from areas like Huddersfield, Teesside, Newcastle and Manchester, all led with a play on the famous train spotting poster. The headline that you can see there says, choose the north, choose jobs, choose to finally keep your rail promises, choose new train links, shorter journey times and fewer cars on the road, choose Northern Powerhouse Rail, choose HS2 in full, choose fair transport investment, choose our future, choose the north. Ministers have defended the likely decision, which is due to be announced on Thursday, saying that an HS2 Eastern route would cost £10 billion and take a decade to complete, all to save passengers just 15 minutes. But, Dawn, this is going to be bad for Boris and the Red Wall, is it not? Because transport infrastructure was a key part of his election success, and he did say that this was going to happen.
He did, but I mean, you know, hey, they have roadmaps, and here's another roadmap just in case you don't like it, and they do perform U-turns, don't they? The thing is with HS2, yes, it won't win him any sympathy and it will lose him votes. However, given everything else that's going to lose him votes at the moment, I mean, the migration issue, I'm sure a lot of, you know, the Red Wall Tories up there, a lot of them, the new Tories, are going to be more concerned about migration. They're going to be more concerned about these enforced green issues and how they're going to afford it, how they're going to afford to heat their homes and run their cars. They can't afford it.
Rebecca,
more people are worried about that.
Do you agree? Because, you know, you read a lot of these MPs in these affected constituencies who say, look, we're dealing with a Victorian railway infrastructure and we believed that Boris was going to modernise for us.
I think it's difficult because I think it's probably almost universally agreed, well, at least I think it is, that we're not great about thinking outside of London. We're a very, very London-centric country, and it creates a lot of it. Like, it's a genuine massive.
That's something we can all agree on.
If you want to work in certain industries, it's almost impossible if you live in certain areas, and that's fundamentally wrong. You shouldn't have to live in London to do certain jobs, and you shouldn't have to come to London every time you want to see a really good everything shouldn't be focused on London. My issue is I think he could have done a much better job doing better with rural transport, because I think saving 15 minutes to go to Birmingham, is it 15 minutes to Leeds or Birmingham? I can't remember, but it's a fractional amount of time. The infrastructure outside of that main railway line is shocking. Trying to get a bus when you live in a village is basically impossible. So if he wanted to do something that would actually help people, it would be to look at rural transport links outside of... You can get pretty easily from Leeds to London.
Which does improve the green issues as well.
Yeah, but Calvin...
better public transport would be brilliant for everyone.
The point is, a promise is a promise. And we also had a promise for this government not to increase taxes. I mean, personally, I think they should have stuck with all of it.
But which promise? So Boris Johnson also promised to lie down in front of the bulldozers to prevent HS2 from going ahead until he became Prime Minister, and suddenly it's going ahead.
I know, but this was at the last election.
I know.
And it was the last election that won the Tory party the Red Wall.
I have to say, without feeling too sick, that I actually agree with Rebecca on this, in that London is...
It happens. Constantine Kitson started that way, and now we're best friends.
Please.
It happens.
But London is the issue.
Buy a hat for the wedding.
HS2 cannot be another commuter train to London. We need interconnectivity in the Midlands and the North. We need to get around the
but that's
country.
why the scrapping of the Birmingham to Leeds.
So if they scrapped it to use that money to make better transport, I can't name a smallish town.
Yeah, but that's what Boris is promising. And of course, look, we've got to wait and see the details on Thursday. I do think we have to wait, but the signs do not look
It's
good.
because there's no meaningful opposition. He's not scared. He's not worried.
Well, look, you're going to love this, Rebecca. Speaking of small-scale transportation, a wheelchair-bound pensioner in rural Russia, this is the most incredible video I've seen all week, was faced with quite a problem getting to his third-floor flat. So look at what he did. He built himself a crane to get up there. So there he is. That's him in his wheelchair. I mean, sorry, this just terrifies me. On a homemade crane. It's gone viral, not surprisingly. The bloke's called Alexander Vasilyevich, and he was met by the mayor of the town, who called him a hero of social media. They've now said they're going to buy him a new wheelchair. Personally, I wish they would install him a lift, because that doesn't look safe to me.
Dan. This is a metaphor for how we treat older people in our society.
I know, it doesn't look safe.
It's not safe.
That's great. It's ingenuity. He's creating his own accessibility.
Get something like this to him.
He's not sitting around moaning. He's doing something.
Well, it would certainly be done faster.
Yeah.
Dawn Neeson, Calvin Robinson, Rebecca Reid, stand by. More Media Buzz on the way. But coming up, after the Saturday's special musicals episode of Strictly Come Dancing was thrown into chaos by Judge Craig Revel-Horwood's positive COVID test, the show's head judge, Shirley Ballas, gives us the lowdown next. And as a shocking new video shows the industrial scale of the Channel illegal migrant operation, should we just tow all of these boats back to France once and for all? I'll debate that with my superstar panel and give you a first look at tomorrow's front pages as the Media Buzz continues.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else. I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
And we're back. It's still the most talked about TV show in the country. Well, apart from this one, maybe. But this weekend, for the first time ever, Strictly Come Dancing will be without Judge Craig Revel-Horwood after he tested positive for COVID-19. So to talk about everything going on the show, plus her amazing autobiography, Behind the Sequins, Shirley Ballas, Strictly's fabulous head judge, joins me now. Shirley! Oh my goodness, so this is quite crazy, right? I mean, look, I know you rule the roost anyway because you're the head judge, but this will be the first time, won't it, that we've never had Grumpy Craig on the panel?
I'm certainly going to miss him. And I was very surprised at the results that he got today, because it's so safe there. And everyone wears these masks, and we're in lanes of traffic. So I'm not really sure how he got the virus, because at the show, everybody is super safe. So I'm not really sure how that happened.
And he has stressed, by the way, he's stressed that he's double vaccinated. So this is just one of these breakthrough cases. I mean, look, the thing is, Shirley, you can't avoid it. I mean, I've had it, you've had it, you can't avoid it. We were careful. You know, virus is virus. You can just pick it up, even through a mask.
But I think that you know, it makes you even more vigilant, because I think it's got wings. I think it can fly. I think it's got a brain, and I think it's just everywhere.
Yeah.
So we can't let up for a second. Being super vigilant is the key, I feel.
No, indeed. So what's it going to be like without Craig, and who's going to be filling his shoes?
Well, I did speak to Sarah, and as of yesterday, it wasn't quite certain about who or if anybody would fill on Saturday. So it could possibly be a fourth judge. It may be three. As of yesterday, they weren't quite sure. But we will definitely miss Grumpy Craig.
I know. I will. Do you know what I think they should do, Shirley?
What?
Bring back Len Goodman for the night. That would be great.
But he's in the United States getting ready for his final. And they're one of their judges, Derek, has just tested positive for COVID today. So you know, it just seems to be
an international
everywhere.
problem. OK, this is an international problem. Shirley, I mean, gosh, Strictly, we're all talking about it again. It feels like, and I find it so crazy to say this, but it feels like it's maybe been the most controversial series yet.
Controversy, I don't have that deciding factor for the first
How
time.
it works. That's not how it works, because you're the boss, so you've got to do it.
Please vote. I just urge people, please
I
vote.
like it when you have to do it, Shirley, because it's like peak drama.
It's peak drama for you. It's peak drama for me on my social media, because it doesn't matter who I send to. It's somebody's favourite. It's always going to be somebody's favourite.
Yeah, no, you're right. So look, I want to talk about the controversies this year, because that's why you're always great to talk to, because you clear everything up. Firstly, was it true that there was all of this rancor and anger backstage over people's vaccination status?
Well, to be quite honest, I wasn't privy to any of that information. And I was asked that in an interview. And my feeling is a little bit to each his own, because I don't know who's got autoimmune deficiencies or who's got this or who's got that, why they can't take it. I'm not privy to any of that information. There was no ruckus at the show. I only heard about it a little bit in the media. But it definitely wasn't something that was, oh, did you vaccinate? Did you vaccinate? It wasn't one of those jobs. You know what I mean?
No, and I think that's good. I think you're right. I think it has to be down to personal choice. Then the other person who's been at the centre of lots of the drama, but in fairness, Shirley, and I know you know her very well, she said a lot of it has been unfair. Now, this is Katia Jones. And I think it came, Shirley, because of that moment between her and Adam Peaty. And I thought he was brilliant, by the way, and she did a great job with him. But I think they got, I mean, I know you're going to disagree with me, but I thought they got a little bit too hot and heavy, right? Because it almost was like they went to kiss.
Okay, Dan, the next time you and I have dinner, I'm going to teach you a little Argentine tango. I'm going to embrace you and roll you in my arms. We are going to be pressed face to face. We are going to be passionate. We are going to flick and kick and wrap our legs around each other. We're going to roll over the coals, because that's what Argentine tango is. And I'm going to do it with you when you come for dinner.
Oh, that's making me
I'm going to be
excited.
so in your
That's
face.
a lot of man's dream, Shirley. But it was the whole kiss thing. It's like he's got a girlfriend watching at home, you know, and
It wasn't kiss. It was a passionate moment of the structure of the Argentine tango. If you've watched it, I've seen many. And it was actually portrayed fabulously. And then the angle of the photograph, the way it was taken, is perceived. She's right there. She's not like this. They're right there. And that is what the dance is. And they executed it first class. It was just unfortunate that people want to read into that. Do you know what I mean? Look, it's close, but it's
I was reading into it, Shirley. I was reading into it. But look, I knew you were going to disagree. I knew you were going to disagree. No, and that's why you're the expert, so I trust you. You know, I trust you.
Superbly executed, because it got you uncomfortable. It got you talking, and that's what the Argentine team does.
Oh, yeah, but all I'm going to say is that if I were Adam Peaty's girlfriend, I would not have been happy. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. Now, Shirley, look, I mean, Strictly does something new every year. And this year, I think probably it's been quite emotional, actually, hasn't it? Seeing a dancer who is deaf perform so beautifully and so powerfully.
Well, many of the couples have had different numbers that they've done well, but Rose's number last week, when they took the music off and we went into her world of silence.
It was goosebumps. It was goosebumps.
Power can come in something that's totally undressed, and that's what I felt it was. And I think Giovanni has just brought the very, very best out in this young lady. It's going to be very, very interesting to see where it goes. But you're right, it was absolutely beautiful.
She's the favourite. I know you can't have favourites, but it would be quite incredible, wouldn't it, to see her make the final at least?
Well, at the end of the day, the public have that choice. They have that choice. And sometimes people look at somebody and they think, oh, they're going to be safe. I'll vote for somebody else. And then that person goes in the bottom two, and then I have to make a choice. So if people want her or John and Johannes or whoever they want in the final, you have to vote.
I know. Well, this is hard for me. This is so hard for me, Shirley, though. But it's really hard for me this year because I love Tom Fletcher. I've known him for years and years and years, been a big supporter of his band. But I used to work with John Waits on Lorraine, and we are great friends. And obviously, he's done something totally new as well by being the first bloke-on-bloke dance. And so it's hard for me. It's hard for me. I don't know who I want to win because I love them all.
It's a historic run. That's what it is. And I think when it comes down to the semi-final and the final, the dancing will talk to you and you will see who you feel should be the winner, because you have to remove a little bit the emotions and you will be able to see through your TV screens all our experienced 15 years people in their armchairs watching. You will know who the winner is. And then you vote.
Now, Shirley, you have obviously made such waves and grown such a huge fan base since being signed on the show as head judge. And I think something that you do so differently is that you have a very honest relationship with your fans. And there was quite an extraordinary moment on the series this year. And I think it's best, actually, that we let you explain it, because this is what you posted on your social media. We'll have a look and I'll get you to react off the back.
Fantastic, thousands of messages, and there have been so many. I do try to reply for the well wishes. You know, it's lovely to see that social media can be such a beautiful place as well. So it makes me quite emotional that people actually really care. And to those wonderful ladies that pointed out to me about the first problem with the underarm little lump there, the guy who removed my implants, Dr. Waterhouse, has been in touch, and he's going to have another good check over just to check that all's good there. So check once, check twice, check 3 times. That's what I think. So I'll keep you all posted when I get the results. But again, you know, my heart goes to all those wonderful people that feel like family.
So, Shirley, this was just incredible. You were wearing one of your beautiful gowns that showed off some of your underarm, and some of your fans said, look, Shirley, I think you need to get it checked out. They were a bit concerned. And rather than doing, I think, what a lot of people would do and keeping that quiet and doing it secretly, you decided you wanted to share that information with your fans, which I think has created quite an amazing connection between you and them.
Well, it was several people that spotted a lump, and I decided to go to the doctors. I spoke to my doctor. She also thought she'd seen something. She did a little check. She did some blood work. But what came from this underarm lump was that there's a hormonal problem, and then this hormonal problem could have affected the kidneys. I've been for 3 scans now. So the last scan was, they called me at 12 o'clock the other day to come in at 4. I couldn't do it. So they took me the next morning, and there's a shadow or a spot or something on the kidney. So they wanted to make sure, and it's revolutionary technique now or something. They do an injection into the arm, go straight to the kidney, and then it turns into like brownie sludge. So from this lump, I have a hormonal problem. I need my breast checking again by Dr. Waterhouse. I've got to do that. I've had lots of blood work done. I've had 3 or 4 scans done. I think that it's alerted me again. The fans did this for me. Like, don't be always so busy and not check yourself. I feel like I need a good MOT, but it has made me a little bit anxious. This is the busiest time for me, as you know, Dan, with Strictly and going into Panto and my own teaching and things. But yes, so I've got to get these checked. I need shoulder surgery. They wanted to do that before Christmas because of Panto. That'll be in March. They found something here, and then, but they don't think that's cancerous. So the guy's going to do the surgery on it. So I feel like I'm falling apart.
Oh God,
it's some bobs.
Shirley. I know,
But
you know what? Thank God you got it all checked out, because hopefully they've found it all early enough. And are you feeling okay about that? Are you getting positive signs from the doctors?
Yes, I mean, the doctors are all positive, and the nurse said to me, according to what she could see on the scan, she didn't think it was anything to worry about, but of course it's to go somewhere else to be checked. So it is an anxious time for me. Anything with your health, anything at all with your health is quite anxious. And because we have so much cancer and stuff in our family, it always makes you a little bit more aware. But yes, thank you to those fans. Thank you for reaching out, because when I got the first message, I thought, I'm not sure about this. But then it came flooding in, and the support, Dan, that I've had, and the beautiful messages, and also the women that have gone to get checked. Also on top, that, I wouldn't normally go to get checked, but now I go to get checked. So I've got this kidney, I've got the hormones, I've got the shoulder, I need the breast checking, I need the blood work back.
But thank God you're doing it. And it's one of the beautiful things of social media, because, look, you and I talk a lot about some of the dark side of social media, but it's lovely to have something positive and empowering. And look, maybe for you, Shirley, life-changing, actually, if they catch something early enough. And I think that's a positive thing.
But I just want to say that I did learn that from you at the very beginning. You were the first person I did the interview with, and you said to me, always be transparent, and if, be honest, because if you don't, the media will make it up, and then it will never be your story. So I learned that from you.
No, and you do. And you own it, Shirley, and I love it. Look, tell me, where are you going to be in Panto? I've got to come.
Playing the Wicked Queen in Tunbridge Wells. It's a really strong part. You are going to be there, Dan, to watch, I'm sure. It's the most fantastic Panto. It's going to be really marvellous.
Oh, Shirley, you're amazing. Look, good luck with Strictly at the weekend. I know it's going to feel different without Craig, but actually, you know what? It means you can rule the roost even more, and that's where we like to see you. Shirley Ballas, thank you so much. I'll see you very soon, Shirley. Thank you. Coming up in Uncancelled, a Muslim asylum seeker's conversion to Christianity to avoid deportation back to ultra-conservative Islamic societies. Dr. Rakib Hassan tackles the flaws in our immigration system, aiding potential terrorists in Uncancelled. But next, in Media Buzz's shocking video exposes the scale of the migrant crisis. Is it time we started towing the boats back to France?
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of 2 wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else. I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Let's return to tomorrow's news tonight in our Media Buzz. And more front pages just in. The Guardian leads with Government Minister Michael Gove being drawn into a cronyism row after Conservative Party donor won a £164 million COVID contract. Mellor designs were reportedly referred to a VIP lane to secure 6 PPE supply contracts. Also, Yorkshire cricketer Asim Rafiq heats out at cricket's institutional racism as he pledges to not let his son near the sport. Johnson bows to pressure over MP's second jobs, leads the Independent's front page. The PM has caved into calls to take action on the jobs for MPs, including stopping them acting as lucrative political consultants. But his attempt to rewrite the standards rules and tackle Westminster sleaze problems have been branded by the newspaper knee-jerk. And this is interesting, actually, because we were discussing this earlier. The Daily Telegraph goes with the reporting of the Church of England apparently helping asylum seekers who were pretending to convert to Christianity to avoid deportation to strict Muslim countries. Home Secretary Priti Patel is reportedly appalled at the so-called merry-go-round of appeal after appeal, using tactics to try and stay in the UK despite failed asylum applications. Tonight's Superstar panel back with me, the former editor of the Daily Star, Dawn Neeson, the Conservative commentator Calvin Robinson and the author and journalist Rebecca Reid. Calvin, it's interesting looking at that Daily Telegraph front page, if we can just put it up again, that this is what you were furious about earlier in the show. And actually, so you can say the Daily Telegraph you were quite annoyed with have redeemed themselves.
They have, because they're not just reporting that he allegedly converted to Christianity. They're looking into the reason why now. And as I said earlier, there are priests out or vicars out there that are supporting and encouraging illegal immigrants to claim that they are now Christians in order to help them claim asylum.
Yeah, it's not priests, it's not my lot.
Dawn Neeson,
we have proof
I honestly never knew that happened.
Dawn Neeson, it is a bit ridiculous, though, Priti Patel saying she's shocked and appalled. I mean, she's the Home Secretary. It's in her remit to change the asylum system. And this is a government that has been in power for a long time. So I'm sort of... I'm a fan of Priti Patel, but I'm a bit sick of her being shocked and appalled, and I want her to change
to actually do
system.
something. You know, she talks a good talk, but she's not actually walking the walk. I mean, you know, she had a meeting with her French counterpart this week, and, you know, we've got to do something, and then nothing happens.
Well, more
again.
proof of
it's
that,
getting
Dawn.
Worse.
More proof of that here, because this is the shocking moment where 2 50-foot-long inflatable dinghies were loaded up with up to 40 migrants each on a beach in northern France this morning before being pushed towards Britain. While the huge dinghies were manhandled down from the dunes, all the while filmed by journalists and video obtained exclusively by the Mail Online, the French police, surprise, surprise, nowhere to be seen.
Get the gunboats out, Dan.
But dog walkers and a jogger watched in amazement as the 2 separate groups who had been hiding overnight in the sand dunes ran to the water's edge with their giant boats. People smuggling minders waded knee-deep in the sea as the migrants clambered aboard for the perilous voyage across the English Channel. So, look, OK, Calvin wants gunboats. Rebecca Reid, how do you feel about not gunboats, but simply having the boats towed back safely into French waters?
I think whatever measure means the fewest people drown is the best measure, because the #1 priority should be people not dying as a result of doing this. And I have very little tolerance for people who are like, oh, they got on the boat, it's their own fault. That is an inhumane stance, and we should not be promoting people dying for any reason.
It's not about promoting people dying, it's about them exploiting the fact that they know that if they jump in the water, we're going to get them out and bring them back to the UK.
I just can't understand how you could not agree that the best possible scenario is the one with the fewest people die.
I haven't disagreed with that.
OK, so to clarify, you agree the best thing to do is to try and have the fewest people drown?
I think everyone would agree with that, but that's
I
not
don't
what
know.
it's about.
No, I
This is
don't.
not-
Honestly, some of the people I see online, I don't think would
well,
agree
no one
with
here is
that.
arguing that. What I'm arguing is if we say that if you jump in the water and look like you're about to drown, we will get you out of the water and bring you back to the UK. We will help you come over here illegally.
I couldn't
That
watch.
is a system that's being
watch
exploited.
somebody drown.
Nobody's saying let's watch
pull them
people try.
out.
It's a false argument.
Because Rebecca, no one is proposing that. The French aren't proposing that. The English aren't proposing.
But if somebody's in the water, then
You know, there's a word for when you make up your own argument and argue against something that people aren't saying. It's a straw man. That's not what we're saying.
I fully understand how debating works. This is literally my job.
Then do it.
Bit of mansplaining going on here, Calvin.
Well, I mean, argue the point that I'm making rather than arguing something you're imagining, because I'm not saying...
Because look, Rebecca,
Just stop being rude. That's really unnecessary. Stop being rude.
Both countries are prepared to save any illegal migrant that gets in the water. The question is, where do they end up?
So if
do they end up on UK territory, which means they go into this asylum system and means that essentially, let's just be honest, right? They stay in the country.
No, I understand
because they don't
how
have
it
the
works.
documentation.
But I think
or
if
do
I
they
were-
get towed back to France? And according to international law, even though the French disagree with this, as long as we can do it safely, Rebecca, and deposit them back safely on French shores, what's the issue?
So, as I say, my priority is the safest possible thing for everybody involved. However,
Because you're more
if I
virtuous
were...
than the rest of us.
That's not what I said, and that's not what I'm saying, and that's snarky,
But it's a caveat that's
unhelpful.
unnecessary because we got past that point. We've all agreed that we all want people to live.
God, this is exhausting.
I agree.
I'm enjoying
I'm
it.
trying to actually answer the question.
I think this. I'm loving the snarkiness.
Should they come to the UK or should they be sent back to
In
France?
order to answer the question that you originally asked, I would imagine that if I were the French authorities, I wouldn't want to bring them back to France because presumably France doesn't want them and we don't want them.
Of course.
So we
and
can't really
France
expect
wants
them
to
to do
make
things
a
they don't
point.
want to do.
France wants to make a
It
point.
does, yeah, because Macron's got an election to win.
Exactly.
What
But now's the time for us to make a point, Dawn, because we're paying them £54 million.
We are.
And they're not delivering what they promised
And
that
that's
they
the
would
first
do.
payment. What astonishes me with the French at the moment is they can spot one of our tiny little fishing trawlers, OK, and impound that may or may not have been electing illegally.
But 50-foot dinghies with 40 people and no, we can't see it.
Literally,
I don't think
they're
they're
flotilla every day.
We can't see it.
But I don't think they're pretending they're really trying, are they? Like the French don't care if we're annoyed. They're like they're perfectly happy for us to
They're
be
loving
cross.
it, and it's incredibly frustrating for the government, but that's why they need to take action. Look at this. A landlord who ripped down an entire wall featuring Banksy artwork and hid it away has been slammed for putting it up for auction. I love this story. So that's graffiti art on the side of an electrical shop and it was reportedly sent. The value of the property. I'm just trying to work this out. The value of the property has gone up from £300,000 to £500,000, but now he's taken it away. And Julian's Auctions in California said the piece, which showed a child with a crowbar next to a sandcastle, could fetch between £150,000 to £300,000, but the sky is the limit with the current values of Banksy. Rebecca, I guess the question was, is it the wrong thing to take it away from the local community, given that's where Banksy intended it to stay? They've sort of ripped the wall down.
It's the foot with my scant understanding of my history of art qualification. That is the opposite of the point of Banksy. And if I were Banksy, I'd probably come out and say, I didn't do it, it wasn't me.
But Calvin, is it the point of capitalism? And that's why we love it, because it was this bloke's wall and he wants to make his money from it.
Absolutely, it's up to him. I think Banksy's a bit of a vandal, to be honest. I think he should do art properly and put it in a gallery rather than just scribbling on people's walls.
Calvin Robinson, Dawn Neeson, Rebecca Reed, do stand by. These three are going to be crowning or nominating, actually. They nominate now. That's how it works. They nominate their greatest Britain and Union jackass. I choose the winner. I like it this way. But first, a Muslim asylum seeker's conversion to Christianity to avoid deportation back to ultra-conservative Islamic societies, uncancelled with Dr. Rakib Assange shortly. First, actually, let's have a look at what's coming up on tomorrow's show.
Coming up Wednesday on Dan Wootton Tonight, I'll reveal the results of an exclusive bombshell poll showing public trust in the Sussexes plummeting following Meghan's courtroom apology. And her half-sister Samantha Markle joins me live from Florida to react and reveal why she's vowed to sue the Duchess. Robert Jobson joins me live from Jordan on the second day of Prince Charles's Middle Eastern tour to give his expert take on how the royal family are handling the Queen's health crisis. Why are the mainstream media ignoring the scourge of Islamist terrorism? Spiked Online's chief political writer Brendan O'Neill will tackle that in The Outsider. And the man who never shies away from the controversial but important topics, Rod Liddell, is back and uncancelled. And I'll break down the day's top stories with Wednesday's superstar panel, the columnist and broadcaster Amanda Platel, the Conservative commentator Albiam Ancona, and the political and royal commentator Daisy McAndrew. That's Dan Wootton tonight, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Monday to Thursday on GB News.
But it's time now for Uncancelled. And this is where Britain's top commentators speak out on controversial issues without the fear of the cancel culture sweeping the rest of the media. So as I discussed in my digest, we've learned today that the suspected terrorist who blew himself up with a homemade bomb outside a Liverpool hospital was a Christian convert who reportedly had an asylum claim rejected in 2014. Imad al-Swalmeen managed to stay in the UK for the 7 years until his death, despite being arrested for waving a large knife at the public in Liverpool, partly because he changed his name to Enzo. But he potentially also used his so-called conversion, and I don't believe he genuinely converted for a single second, but he used his so-called conversion to Christianity to avoid detection and deportation to an ultra-conservative Islamic society. So is this an alarming new tactic that extremists will deploy again in the future, and how do we stop it? Joining me to discuss this further is Research Fellow at the Henry Jackson Society, Dr. Akabi Ihsan. Dr. Ihsan, great to have you back. This is a really shocking development, isn't it? And so disturbing, Dr. Ihsan, that, you know, it looks like the Church of England may have been in cahoots with this to an extent.
Well, it's absolutely remarkable, isn't it, Dan? But a number of years ago, we did have senior Church of England clerics warning that a certain number of Muslim asylum seekers were converting to Christianity because they saw it as a means to avoid deportation from the UK. Basically presenting the argument that, oh, I've left Islam, I've converted to Christianity. If I was to return to an ultra-conservative Islamic society, that their life would be in danger because the charge of apostasy can be punishable through death. So I think that what that really exposes is how the asylum system in the UK can be exploited and how people can use religious conversion as a means in terms of trying to avoid being removed from the country.
I couldn't agree more. But isn't it shocking to see the intellectual dishonesty coming from a lot of our media, Dr. Ihsan, who seem to be loving the fact that they can now describe this bloke as a Christian extremist. And again, I think that's intellectually dishonest based on what we know thus far.
Well, absolutely. I think the argument that this person's newfound Christian faith somehow motivated him to carry out an act of terror is complete nonsense. And actually, those identitarians, you could say, who are trying to use his Christian identity in terms of emphasizing his Christian identity, what they've actually done is draw attention to the fact that we do have this phenomenon where some Muslim asylum seekers in different parts of the country, but particularly Liverpool, that they have they've essentially, well, they're presented, or rather they've portrayed themselves to have left Islam, converted to Christianity in order to shore up, you could say, or rather boost their chances of remaining in the UK, trying to provide their, or rather try to bolster their asylum applications.
So what should we be doing, Dr. Ihsan? I mean, we've got to have a conversation first, but what can we do?
Well, I think that one thing we can do is actually acknowledge the fact that our asylum system is broken. It's not fit for purpose.
Amen.
I think
Amen.
I think all too often when we have discussions about our immigration and asylum system, that there's a great deal of talk about maximising global welfare. How that it's important for Britain to be generous spirited. Now, of course, I do think we can take pride in our history of rehoming persecuted people, but that should not be at the expense of British public safety.
No, I couldn't agree more. And something that's a bit frustrating for me is that, according to the newspapers tomorrow, Priti Patel's saying she's shocked and appalled by the asylum system and the fact that he's been that this bloke, this suspected terrorist, was caught up in it for 7 years. You know, he lost his bid to stay here in 2014. It's astonishing that he was still here. I'm sorry, surely it's the government that has to change the system.
Absolutely. I think that there's a fundamental gap between the rhetoric and reality. And this UK government specialises in blaming international law, blaming other agencies, when in reality it really needs to step up to the plate. There is more that the government can do. I suggested that the government actually sets up an asylum task force, asylum system task force, which actually, what it does, identifies vulnerabilities within our asylum system. It has to have hard-headed discussions or hard-headed examinations in terms of exploring the association between asylum seekers, refugees, and criminality and forms of terror-related activity. Dan, I recently published a report with the Henry Jackson Society, which showed that since 1998, when you look at foreign nationals convicted of Islamist terror-related offences, around 1 in 4 had either claimed or been granted asylum in the UK. So that clearly shows you that the asylum system is not fit for purpose and it doesn't prioritise public safety the way it should.
Dr. Akib, that's a fascinating discussion, as ever. Thank you for being here on tonight's Uncancelled. But it's time now to reveal today's greatest Britain and Union jackass. And with me to reveal theirs, my superstar panel is back. Let me reintroduce them. It's the Daily Star columnist, Dawn Neeson, the Conservative commentator, Calvin Robinson, there they are, and the author and journalist, Rebecca Reid. Dawn, who's your greatest Brit this Tuesday night?
She has been on the show already tonight, and it's not Rebecca or I, obviously, but it's Shelley Ballas.
Great choice.
Amazing, a true inspiration because she is 61 years old and she's not ashamed about admitting it. She's doing it for older women everywhere. She's strong, she's inspirational, she's been very open about talking about her cancer scares, which is encouraging more people to come forward. She's great on the show. I think she's just a real inspiration. Just amazing. So this week, it's Shirley for me.
Yeah, we love her here at GB News, absolutely. Calvin Robinson, your greatest Brit.
Mine this week is Dr. Liam Fox MP, because he's supporting a private member's bill to legally recognise people with Down syndrome as a minority group so that their needs get met. And I think this is the first important step to ending age-old discrimination against people with Down syndrome, in particular the abortion laws which allow people to abort a child with Down syndrome up until birth, which I find abhorrent. So thank you, Dr. Liam Fox, for taking the first step there.
Another good choice. Rebecca Reid, your greatest Britain is an honorary one.
Is an honorary one, and
she does live here, really, doesn't she?
Yeah, and her boyfriend is British. Taylor Swift, who is the queen of my heart and greatest Britain every week for me and my soul. She's a better writer than Shakespeare, and she is the greatest songwriter of all generations, especially our generation. She re-released an album this week and is the most highly fastest streamed woman on Spotify.
We've got a look at this song that everyone's talking about.
It's a 10-minute version.
We don't have the 10 minutes, I promise you, but let's have a little snippet. Let's have a little
snippet. It's so worth it, Dawn.
Have a look. She's a business genius as well, Rebecca Reid, because, of course, the only reason she's doing all of this is that she was so angry that Scooter Braun legally bought her music, which you're allowed to do, and she's like, screw you, Scooter, I'm going to release this album so you don't make any money off my old material.
And apparently it's looking like he might get sued because the thing that he bought wasn't worth what he said it was going to be. She is probably the pettiest person in the world, and I respect that
I'm glad you admit that. I'm glad you admit that, but I'm going with Dawn here. Shirley Ballas, obviously the greatest Britain. What a woman. Strictly Come Dancing wouldn't be the same without her. Dawn Neeson, your Union jackass.
Again, someone else that's already been mentioned on the show, a gorgeous young man. Sadly, Calvin, not you. This is David Beckham, who is the high priest of all the multimillionaires who will go to Qatar in 2022 for the World Cup and wearing their rainbow laces and taking the knee on pitches soaked in the blood of 6,500 modern-day slaves who have built those stadiums, and where women and gay people have no rights whatsoever. Hypocrites, a lot of them.
Shame on him. Shame on him. Calvin Robinson, your Union Jackass nomination.
Yes, my nomination this week is the Durham University Union, because they are providing sex worker training and they're being scandalised because of it. But rather than apologise, they've said it's a reality of modern students' life. And I think shame on them. It's degenerate, it's immoral, they should be supporting people. If people are in sex work or prostitution, let's use the real word, they should be helping encourage people out of it and support them out of it, not train people to remain in it. And they use the word educate yourself in an argument against people saying that this is wrong, which is, I find it frustrating.
Rebecca Reid, do you agree
Just
with
as a
that
clarification, sex work is an umbrella term, prostitution is sex. But there's lots of different types of sex work that don't include penetration, which is why we use the umbrella.
Not interested.
If you would like to be ill-informed, that is entirely your choice. Mine is it's basically everybody involved in the Yorkshire cricket and sports, as we all know, not my world. But I think everybody who heard the testimony today was pretty horrified, and it sounds like...
It was heartbreaking, wasn't it?
It really was. It was really hard to hear, and it's not an experience that I understand firsthand, and I was reminded about how important it is to listen when people tell these stories. But yeah, so
Calvin, what did you think of his testimony?
I haven't read his testimony, to be honest with you.
Dawn, did you catch up with it at all?
Bits and pieces of it, and I think, what's gone on is appalling. It's not my sport. Football is my sport.
Oh, we know that, Dawn.
Sorry.
I'm coming to a West Ham game soon. I'm very excited.
Are you? Which one?
Versus Chelsea.
Oh, marvellous.
In a couple of weeks. Yeah, I'm very excited.
I'll take you for a pint.
Very, very excited. Because West Ham was my grandfather's team, Dawn. So it's sort of my team, isn't it? Because if it's my granddad's team, I don't really have one. But,
We'll welcome you with open arms.
Look, Dawn, you've done the double today. You've done the double because David Beckham is absolutely my Union Jackass. I think the hypocrisy of this man knows no bounds. How on earth can you pocket 150 million quid from such a corrupt regime that has a whole load of issues connected to it, especially when it comes to issues regarding homosexuality, the rights of women, and then have the cheek to preach to us? Look, if he just said, I'm taking the money because I'm a greedy bloke, absolutely fine, but it's the fact that he puts himself on this pedestal as some sort of paragon of virtue, and he's not, and he should be axed by UNICEF. Because believe me, everything David Beckham does is for the big bucks, not to improve the world. What a brilliant superstar panel tonight. Dawn Neeson, Calvin Robinson, Rebecca Reid, thank you so much. I've absolutely loved it. I am back tomorrow night at 9 o'clock. Headliners is next. I can't wait for that. And I'll see you tomorrow night with Samantha Markle. Good night.
Coming up Wednesday on Dan Wootton Tonight, I'll reveal the results of an exclusive bombshell poll showing public trust in the Sussexes plummeting following Meghan's courtroom apology. And her half-sister Samantha Markle joins me live from Florida to react and reveal why she's vowed to sue the Duchess. Robert Jobson joins me live from Jordan on the second day of Prince Charles's Middle Eastern tour to give his expert take on how the royal family are handling the Queen's health crisis. Why are the mainstream media ignoring the scourge of Islamist terrorism? Spiked Online's chief political writer Brendan O'Neill will tackle that in The Outsider. And the man who never shies away from the controversial but important topics, Rod Liddell, is back and uncancelled. And I'll break down the day's top stories with Wednesday's superstar panel, the columnist and broadcaster Amanda Platel.